The massive chamber floated in the darkness of space, a structure so large that entire cities could fit inside its walls. The Galactic Unity Council had gathered here for thousands of years, a place where 847 different species came together to discuss the future of the galaxy. Today the chamber was filled with noise. Clicking sounds, chirping calls, and strange musical tones mixed together as the council members talked among themselves. Ambassador Kelthera of the Vryn Dominion stood at the center platform. Her body was covered in thick armor plates that had grown naturally from her skin. She was 3 times taller than any human, and her forearms moved with purpose as she activated the holographic display. The Vryn were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. When they spoke, others usually listened, but today no one was listening. They were laughing. Kelthera's voice boomed through the translation systems. The words came out in 847 different languages at once, each council member hearing her speech in their own way of understanding. Her message was simple and direct. I propose an emergency motion. We must ban humanity from all council trade routes. We must remove them from all military alliances. We must end all diplomatic relations with Earth and its colonies. The humans are dangerous. They must be stopped before it is too late. The chamber exploded with sound. Laughter echoed from every corner. The Zephrani, who looked like giant birds made of crystal, produced high-pitched whistling sounds that their species used for mockery. The Kolthic delegates, massive beings that resembled walking mountains, rumbled with deep bass laughter that made the floor vibrate. Even the peaceful Lysera, who rarely showed emotion, made soft clicking sounds that meant amusement. The humans? Dangerous? One delegate called out, and the translation made it sound like a joke. Have you seen them? They are so soft. No armor, no scales, no shells. Their skin breaks so easily. Another voice joined in. They live such short lives. Most of them die before they reach 100 years. How can they be dangerous when they barely have time to learn anything? A third delegate added to the mockery. They have no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no venom. Even their young are helpless for years after birth. What kind of species needs that much time to grow up? Kelthera's armored face showed no emotion, but those who knew the Vryn could see the tension in her body. She raised one of her forearms, and the laughter slowly died down. Her voice was colder now, harder. I understand your reaction. 3 months ago I would have laughed too. The humans have always been seen as the comedy of the galaxy. They smile and make jokes. They write songs and paint pictures. They seem weak and fragile and harmless. She paused, letting her words sink in. But I have seen something. I have footage that will change how you think about humanity. I have proof that these soft, short-lived, weaponless creatures are the most dangerous species in this galaxy. The laughter started again, but this time it was more uncertain. Some delegates had stopped laughing entirely. They could hear something in Kelthera's voice that made them uncomfortable. The Vryn did not scare easily. They were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. If something frightened them, maybe it was worth paying attention to. In the human delegation box, Commander Sarah Chen sat perfectly still. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching 5 feet tall. Her uniform was simple and plain, dark blue with no decorations except for a small Earth flag on her shoulder. Her face showed nothing. She did not smile. She did not frown. She just watched and waited. The council speaker, an ancient being called a keeper, raised its crystalline head. The keepers had no physical form that other species could fully understand. They existed partly in this dimension and partly in others. Their role was to maintain order and fairness in the council. Ambassador Kelthera, the keeper's voice was like wind chimes in a storm, beautiful and terrible at once. You make a serious claim. Banning a species from the council is not something we do lightly. In our 10,000 years of existence, we have only banned 3 species, and those were for crimes against all life in the galaxy. Do you truly believe the humans deserve this punishment? Kelthera did not hesitate. I do, Honored Keeper. I believe that if we do not act now, we will regret it for as long as the council exists. The keeper was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again. Very well. We will view your evidence. But know this, Ambassador. If you are wasting our time, if you are making these claims without proper cause, there will be consequences for the Vryn Dominion. Do you accept this? I accept, Kelthera said firmly. The keeper turned its attention to the assembled council. We will now hear the evidence. However, since many of you seem to find this matter amusing, let us make it interesting. We will vote first on whether to hear the full presentation seriously or whether to treat it as entertainment. Those in favor of entertainment? Nearly every delegate raised their voting appendage. Arms, tentacles, wings, and stranger things filled the air. The vote was clear. They wanted to laugh at the humans. They wanted to see whatever silly footage the Vryn had found. They expected to be amused. Commander Chen's expression did not change. She sat in her chair, hands folded in her lap, and continued to watch. But those near her noticed something. Her eyes were sad. The lights in the chamber dimmed. A massive holographic display activated above the center platform. Kelthera's voice cut through the darkness. 3 months ago, a Vryn military expedition discovered a human mining colony in disputed space. The colony was illegal according to our laws. We gave them 24 hours to evacuate. This is the footage of what happened next. The laughter was already starting again. Delegates were making jokes to each other, preparing to mock whatever they were about to see. But Kelthera continued speaking, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The colony had 3,000 humans, miners and their families, men, women, and children. We expected them to run. We expected them to beg. We expected them to surrender. She paused, and her next words were barely a whisper, but the translation systems made sure everyone heard them clearly. We were wrong. The footage began to play. The chamber fell silent, not because they were respectful, but because they were waiting for the funny part to start. They were all waiting to laugh at the humans again. They did not know that in a few minutes none of them would be laughing anymore. The holographic display showed a planet. It was small and rocky with a thin atmosphere. The planet had no name that anyone in the council chamber knew. To the humans who lived there, it was called New Hope. To the Vryn, it was simply Target 7 in Sector 42. The footage jumped back in time, showing the events from 3 months earlier. A fleet of Vryn warships appeared at the edge of the system. 12 massive vessels, each one capable of destroying a city with a single blast. The ships moved through space like predators, confident and unstoppable. Kelthera's voice narrated over the images. The colony was in disputed territory. According to galactic law, when a council species claims a system, any lesser species must evacuate within the given time period. This is standard procedure. It has been this way for thousands of years. The display showed the human colony. It was not impressive by galactic standards. A few dozen buildings clustered together, connected by covered walkways. Large mining machines sat silent on the surface. Storage facilities held the minerals they had extracted. Everything looked temporary, as if the humans knew they might have to leave someday. The Vryn sent their message. The translation played in the council chamber, and several delegates recognized the standard format. It was the same message that had been used for centuries, the same words that had moved hundreds of species out of the way of council expansion. Attention, human settlement. This system has been claimed by the Vryn Dominion. You have 24 standard hours to evacuate. Any humans remaining after this period will be removed by force. Any structures remaining will be destroyed. This is your only warning. Comply or face consequences. The display showed the human response. A communication came from the colony. A man's face appeared on screen. He was middle-aged with lines on his face from years of hard work. His name was Marcus Webb, and he was the colony administrator. Vryn vessels, this is Administrator Webb of New Hope Colony. We request more time. We have 3,000 people here, including children and elderly. 24 hours is not enough to evacuate everyone safely. We ask for 1 week. We will leave peacefully if you give us time. Some delegates in the council chamber nodded. This seemed reasonable, but Kelthera's next words made them understand why the Vryn had refused. Our fleet commander followed protocol. Lesser species do not negotiate with council species. They obey. This is the law. The humans were given the standard time period. They were told the consequences. What happened next was their choice. The footage showed more human transmissions. Webb tried again, this time offering resources. We have extracted valuable minerals from this planet. Rare elements that you might want. We can give you everything we have mined if you give us more time. The Vryn commander's response was simple and cold. Denied. Those resources already belong to the Vryn Dominion. You are trespassing on our property. 23 hours remaining. Webb made one final attempt. His face showed desperation now, but also dignity. Then we request council mediation. We ask that an impartial judge review the situation. We are willing to accept any fair decision. The Vryn commander's laughter echoed through the transmission. Council mediation takes months to arrange. You have hours. The law is clear. You knew the risks when you built an illegal colony. Now you face the consequences. In the council chamber, many delegates shifted uncomfortably. They all knew this law. They had all used it. It was convenient. It was efficient. It meant that powerful species did not have to waste time negotiating with weaker ones. The strong took what they wanted and the weak moved aside. This was the way of the galaxy. But something about seeing it spelled out so clearly made some of them uncomfortable. The humans had asked for mercy. They had asked for time. They had offered resources. They had asked for justice. Every request had been denied. The footage continued. It showed the colony over the next 24 hours. The Vryn expected to see evacuation ships launching. They expected panic and chaos. They expected the humans to run. Instead, something strange happened. The colony became very busy, but not with evacuation. The mining equipment started moving. The storage facilities opened. Workers in protective suits swarmed across the surface like ants building a nest. We watched them, Kelthera said. We thought they were preparing to leave. We thought they were loading ships. We were wrong. They were preparing for war. The council delegates leaned forward. This was getting interesting. War? The humans were going to fight? Against 12 Vryn warships? With mining equipment and civilian structures? The absurdity of it made some of them start laughing again. But Commander Chen, sitting silently in the human delegation box, did not laugh. Her sad eyes watched the screen. She had seen this footage before. She knew what was coming. She knew what it had cost. The display showed time passing. Hours counted down. 20 hours. 15 hours. 10 hours. The humans worked without stopping. They did not sleep. They did not rest. Every person in that colony, from the youngest adult to the oldest miner, was working on something. 5 hours before the deadline, the Vryn sent one last transmission. The fleet commander's voice held a hint of respect now, which was unusual for dealings with humans. Human colony. We see that you are not evacuating. We see that you are preparing to resist. We respect courage, even foolish courage. But understand this. You cannot win. You will all die. Your buildings will be dust. Your names will be forgotten. This is your final chance. Leave now and you will live. Stay, and you will not. Administrator Webb appeared on screen one last time. He looked tired. His hands were dirty with grease and dust. Behind him, the colony workers continued their frantic activity. But his voice was steady when he spoke. Commander, we asked for mercy. You gave us none. We asked for time. You refused. We asked for justice. You laughed. So now we give you a warning instead. Webb's eyes were hard as stone. We will defend our home. We will defend our families. And when this is over, you will remember us. You will remember that you had a choice. You chose this. The transmission ended. The countdown reached 0. The 24 hours had passed. The Vryn fleet moved forward, weapons charging, ready to cleanse the planet of the stubborn humans who had refused to leave. In the council chamber, the laughter had stopped. The delegates were watching closely now. They wanted to see what 3,000 unarmed humans thought they could do against one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. Kelthera's voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. Watch carefully, honored delegates. Watch and understand. This is why I say humans are dangerous. Not because they are strong, not because they are armed, but because of what you are about to see. The footage showed the Vryn flagship approaching the colony. Its weapons glowed with deadly energy. The other 11 ships spread out in standard attack formation. Everything was by the book. Everything was professional. This should have been a simple operation, a quick strike, a complete victory, and then the Vryn would claim their new system. But as the ships drew closer, something appeared on their sensors. Something that should not have been there. Something impossible. The colony was not defenseless anymore. The holographic display in the council chamber grew larger, showing the tactical view from the Vryn flagship. Colors and symbols marked different elements on the screen. Blue shapes represented the Vryn ships. Red dots showed what the sensors had detected on the planet's surface. There were dozens of red dots. No, hundreds. Energy signatures that indicated weapons, power sources that suggested shields, defensive positions that had not existed 24 hours ago. In the council chamber, delegates stopped whispering to each other. They stared at the display in confusion. How had a mining colony built military defenses in one day? It was not possible. Mining equipment could not be turned into weapons. Civilian power generators could not create military-grade shields. Everyone knew this. The Vryn fleet commander's voice came through the footage, speaking to his crew. Analysis. What am I looking at? A tactical officer responded, and even through the translation, the confusion was clear. Commander, the sensors show weapon emplacements, but they are not military weapons. They appear to be modified mining equipment. The ore processors have been reconfigured as railgun accelerators. The drilling lasers have been retuned for combat wavelengths. The refinery furnaces are generating massive amounts of energy. Another officer added to the report. The civilian transports have been fitted with what appear to be explosive charges. The cargo containers have been turned into missiles. The shield generators, we believe those are the power cores from their life support systems, rerouted and amplified. The fleet commander was silent for a moment. Then he laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It sounded almost respectful. Clever humans. They have built toys to make themselves feel brave, but toys will not save them. All ships maintain formation. Prepare to fire. Target the largest structures first. Before the Vryn could fire, a transmission came from the colony. Administrator Webb's face appeared once more. His expression was grim, but his voice was steady. Vryn fleet, you were warned. Defend yourselves, the transmission ended. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the colony fired. The holographic display lit up with light. Dozens of weapons opened fire at once. The repurposed ore processors launched chunks of metal at incredible speeds. These were not sophisticated missiles with guidance systems. They were simple projectiles, the same kind the miners had used to send raw ore into orbit for processing. But they were fast, and there were many of them. The Vryn shields absorbed most of the impacts. The fleet commander's voice was confident. See, harmless. All ships return fire. End this. But then something unexpected happened. The shields on one of the Vryn ships flickered. The constant barrage of projectiles was not damaging the ships, but it was forcing the shields to work continuously. And shields needed power. Shields needed cooling. Shields could be exhausted. The humans were not trying to break through the shields with single powerful shots. They were trying to drain them with constant pressure. It was a siege tactic, something that belonged to ancient warfare, not space battles. It should not have worked against modern military vessels. But it was working. The Vryn ships opened fire. Their weapons were vastly more powerful than anything the colony possessed. Energy beams tore into the surface, destroying buildings and leaving craters where structures had stood. The display showed 3 human defensive positions wiped out in seconds, but the other positions kept firing. And more importantly, the colony had prepared for this. The footage showed underground tunnels connecting the buildings. As soon as one position was destroyed, more weapons emerged from hidden locations. The mining equipment had been used to dig a network of bunkers and passages in just 24 hours. In the council chamber, the laughter had completely stopped. Delegates watched with growing disbelief. The humans were fighting back. Actually fighting back. It was not effective, not really. They were losing. But they were not running. They were not surrendering. They were making the Vryn work for every inch of ground. The battle continued. The Vryn destroyed more positions. The humans kept firing. One of the Vryn ships reported shield failure and had to pull back to recharge. Another ship took minor hull damage from a lucky shot. It was not serious, but it was damage. These soft, weak, harmless humans had actually heard of Vryn warship. The fleet commander's voice was not amused anymore. Deploy ground forces. Marines to the surface. I want this colony pacified within the hour. Kill anyone who resists. Drop pods launched from the Vryn ships, hundreds of them, carrying heavily armed Marines. The Vryn were expert warriors trained from birth to fight and conquer. Each Marine wore advanced armor and carried weapons that could level buildings. They had fought on 100 worlds. They had never lost. The pods landed. Marines emerged, weapons ready, expecting to face frightened civilians with improvised weapons. Instead, they found something that confused them. They found nothing. The colony was empty. No humans in sight. The buildings were abandoned. The streets were silent. Marine teams spread out, searching for targets. Their armor sensors picked up traces of recent human presence. Heat signatures, chemical traces, movement patterns, but no humans. Then the first mine exploded. The footage showed the explosion from multiple angles. The Marine squad disappeared in a blast of fire and debris. The colony had been trapped. Every street, every building, every corridor. Mining charges that the humans had used to break rock were now hidden everywhere, waiting for the Vryn to find them. More explosions followed. The Marines advanced cautiously now, scanning for traps, but the humans had been thorough. Every step was dangerous. Every doorway could be deadly. The Vryn armor protected them from many blasts, but not all. And even when the armor held, the Marines inside were thrown around, injured, disoriented. Then the humans appeared. They came from the tunnels, from hidden passages, from underground bunkers. They wore mining suits reinforced with metal plates. They carried industrial tools modified into weapons. Welding torches became flamethrowers. Cutting lasers became rifles. Pneumatic drills became close combat weapons. The humans were not soldiers. They had no formal training. They had no military discipline. But they knew this colony. They knew every tunnel, every passage, every hiding place. And they fought with a desperation and fury that shocked the Vryn Marines. In the council chamber, delegates leaned forward, transfixed by the footage. They watched humans charge at Vryn Marines with nothing but tools and determination. They watched miners throw themselves at armored warriors 3 times their size. They watched civilians fight like cornered animals, fierce and fearless and terrible. The humans were losing. Of course they were losing. Every time a human died, 10 more were needed to bring down a single Vryn Marine. But the humans kept coming. They kept fighting. They did not run. They did not surrender. They just kept fighting until they could not fight anymore. Commander Chen sat in the human delegation box watching the screen. A single tear rolled down her face. She did not try to hide it. She did not look away. She owed these people that much. She owed them a witness. The battle raged for hours. The Vryn lost Marines. Not many compared to human casualties, but they lost them. Each loss made the fleet commander more angry. Each death made him push harder. He sent more troops. He ordered heavier weapons. He demanded complete annihilation, but the humans had one more surprise. One final message to send. The footage showed it clearly. A civilian transport ship, old and battered, launched from a hidden underground hangar. The Vryn sensors picked it up immediately. Fleeing vessel detected, a tactical officer reported. Should we pursue? The fleet commander laughed bitterly. Let them run. Let them tell others what happens when you defy the Vryn. At least some humans have sense, but the ship was not running away. It was turning, accelerating, heading directly toward the Vryn flagship. Commander, the vessel is on collision course. Destroy it now. The Vryn weapons fired. But the transport was fast, faster than it should have been. The humans had stripped everything unnecessary from the ship. No cargo, no life support, no comfort. Just engines and one pilot. The ship dodged the first volley, took hits from the second, and kept coming. The council chamber was completely silent as they watched. Every delegate knew what was about to happen. They could see it coming. They wanted to look away, but they could not. The transport hit the flagship. The entire ship was filled with explosives. Every mining charge the colony had left. Every explosive they had created packed into one vessel and flown by a single volunteer who knew they would not come back. The explosion was massive. The flagship's shields had been weakened by hours of fighting. The blast tore through the hull, through multiple decks, through critical systems. The great warship shuddered and began to list. Emergency sirens wailed. Crew members scrambled for escape pods. 4,000 Vryn died in that explosion. Warriors, engineers, officers. They died because one human had decided that if they were going to die anyway, they would make it count. They would make it hurt. They would make sure the Vryn remembered. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in their various languages. Some were angry. Some were frightened. Some were simply shocked. No one had expected this. No one had thought soft, weak, harmless humans would do something like this. But the footage was not over yet. The holographic display continued to show the aftermath of the explosion. The Vryn flagship was dying, but the battle was not over. The remaining 11 Vryn warships moved into defensive positions, regrouping, processing what had just happened. Their communications filled with confusion and anger. The second in command took control of the fleet. His voice was cold with fury. All ships, concentrate fire on the colony. I want nothing left. No buildings, no tunnels, no humans. Turn that planet into glass. But even as the order went out, More human defensive positions activated. They had been conserving ammunition, waiting for this moment. Now they unleashed everything they had left. The barrage was less coordinated than before, more desperate, but it was fierce. On the ground, the Vryn Marines pushed deeper into the colony tunnels. The footage switched to helmet cameras, showing the battle from the Marines' perspective. What they saw made even the hardened council delegates uncomfortable. Every corridor was a trap. Every room was a killing zone. The humans had turned their entire colony into a maze of death. They had studied how the Vryn fought. They had learned their tactics. And they had prepared accordingly. The helmet camera showed a Marine squad entering what looked like a storage room. It seemed empty. The squad leader signaled his team forward. Then the walls exploded. Mining charges hidden in the walls, in the ceiling, in the floor. The entire room had been turned into a bomb. The squad was wiped out in seconds. Another camera showed a different scene. A lone human, a woman in a mining suit, stood in a narrow tunnel. She was old, probably 70 or 80 years. In her hands she held a welding torch. Behind her, a sealed door. The Marines knew what was behind that door. Families, children, the people they were supposed to protect. The squad leader tried to talk to her. "Move aside. We will spare you if you surrender. We only want the fighters." The old woman shook her head. Her voice was steady through her suit's speaker. "You gave us 24 hours. We gave you a warning. Now we give you a choice. Leave or die here." The Marines advanced. The woman triggered her torch and the explosives she had attached to her own suit. The tunnel collapsed, burying the squad and sealing the passage. The door behind her held. The family survived. She did not. In the council chamber, a Lysera delegate made a soft keening sound, their species' expression of grief. Others shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. This was not how wars were supposed to work. Civilians were supposed to flee. They were supposed to beg for mercy. They were not supposed to fight like this. The footage continued. More scenes of desperate combat. Humans defending every tunnel, every room, every centimeter of their home. They used tactics that shocked the Vryn. They pretended to surrender, then triggered explosives when the Marines got close. They led squads into dead ends and collapsed the tunnels on top of them. They fought in ways that violated every standard rule of warfare. Because they were not soldiers. They did not care about honor or proper conduct. They cared about survival. They cared about making the Vryn pay for every life taken. They cared about fighting until they could not fight anymore. Kelthera's voice narrated over the footage. "The Vryn doctrine of war is efficient and honorable. We fight with strength and discipline. We expect our enemies to do the same. The humans taught us something that day. They taught us that there are beings in this galaxy who do not care about honor. There are beings who will do anything, sacrifice anything, to defend what is theirs." The display showed casualty statistics. Vryn losses climbed steadily. 300 Marines. 500. 800. For every Marine lost, 20 or 30 humans died. But the humans kept fighting. They fought with mining tools and bare hands. They fought until they ran out of ammunition. Then they fought with blades. When they ran out of blades, they fought with their fists. One scene showed a group of human children, teenagers probably, defending a shelter where younger children hid. They had no weapons left. They threw rocks. They used their bodies as shields. They died defending children who were not even related to them. Because that was what humans did, they protected each other. Commander Chen's face was wet with tears now. She had met some of these people. She had visited this colony once, years ago. She remembered their faces. She remembered their laughter. She remembered how they had welcomed her with food and stories and hope for the future. Now they were gone. All of them. Dead because they had chosen to fight rather than run. Dead because they had believed their home was worth defending. Dead because no one in the galaxy had cared enough to help them. The footage showed the final stages of the battle. The Vryn had won, but the cost was staggering. 2 ships heavily damaged and forced to withdraw. 1 flagship destroyed. Over 2,000 Marines dead or injured. 67% casualties. For a force that had never lost a battle, that had conquered worlds without breaking a sweat, this was devastating. But the numbers did not tell the whole story. The real cost was something else. It was in the faces of the surviving Marines. It was in the way they moved through the ruined colony, slowly, carefully, afraid of what might be waiting in the next tunnel. They had learned to fear humans, and that fear would not go away. The final image showed the colony from orbit. What had been a functioning settlement was now a scarred wasteland. Craters dotted the surface. Buildings had been reduced to rubble. The tunnels had collapsed. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. 3,000 humans had died. But they had made the Vryn Dominion bleed. They had proven that even the weakest species could hurt the strong if they were desperate enough. They had sent a message that echoed across the galaxy. The footage ended. The lights in the council chamber came back on slowly. No one spoke. No one moved. They were all processing what they had seen. Kelthera's voice broke the silence. This is why I say humans are dangerous. Not because they are strong. Not because they have powerful weapons. But because they do not know when to quit. They do not understand surrender. When you back them into a corner, when you threaten their families, when you give them no choice, they become something terrible. She turned to face the assembled delegates. And here is what you need to understand. Here is what keeps me awake at night. This colony, these 3,000 humans, they were civilians, miners, families. They had no military training, no advanced weapons, no support from their government. They were alone, and they still did this. Kelthera paused, letting her words sink in. Now imagine what trained human soldiers could do. Imagine what would happen if we attacked a major human colony or Earth itself. Imagine billions of humans all fighting like this, all refusing to surrender, all willing to die to defend their homes. A Kolthic delegate rumbled a question, but they lost. They all died. How is this dangerous? We can defeat them. Kelthera looked at the delegate with something like pity. Yes, we can defeat them. But at what cost? The Vryn committed 12 warships to destroy one mining colony. We lost thousands of warriors. We lost a flagship. And everywhere in the galaxy, humans saw this footage. They saw what happened. They know now what we are capable of. And they are preparing. She activated another display. It showed reports from across the galaxy, human colonies increasing their defenses, human merchants forming networks, human diplomats making alliances, human settlements coordinating with each other. They are not preparing to run, Kelthera said quietly. They are preparing to fight. Every colony, every settlement, every human in the galaxy saw what happened at New Hope. And instead of being frightened, instead of fleeing, they are inspired. They are ready to do the same thing if we threaten them. The council chamber erupted in noise again. Delegates arguing, some still dismissive, others clearly worried. The implications were staggering. Humans were everywhere in the galaxy, on stations, on planets, and trade routes. If they all decided to fight like the colony at New Hope had fought, the cost would be enormous. But Commander Chen still had not spoken. She sat quietly, waiting. She knew the footage was not complete. She knew there was one more revelation coming. One more piece of information that would change everything, and she knew it would break her heart to hear it again. The Keeper's crystalline form pulsed with light, drawing attention back to the center of the chamber. The noise died down as delegates realized the human representative was about to speak. Commander Sarah Chen stood slowly, her small frame somehow commanding attention in the vast space. "Thank you, Ambassador Kelthera," Chen said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried perfectly through the translation systems. "You have shown the Council what happened. Now I will tell you why it happened." She walked to the center platform, standing where Kelthera had stood. She looked small and fragile next to the massive Vryn ambassador, but her eyes were steady as she addressed the Council. "You call us weak because we prefer peace. You mistake our preference for inability. You see our soft skin and short lives and lack of natural weapons, and you think we cannot fight. You are wrong." Chen activated her own display. Images appeared above the chamber. Ancient images. Historical records from Earth. Battlefields covered with bodies. Cities reduced to ruins. Monuments to millions of dead. "This is human history," Chen said. "For thousands of years we fought each other. We developed 10,000 ways to kill. We built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We fought wars that killed millions. We fought over land, over resources, over ideas, over religions. We fought until we learned that fighting was destroying us." The images changed, showing the progression of human warfare. Swords to guns, guns to bombs, bombs to missiles, missiles to nuclear weapons. The council delegates watched in growing horror as they realized the scale of human violence. "We chose civilization over savagery," Chen continued. "We chose cooperation over conflict. We chose peace over war, not because we could not fight, but because we knew too well what fighting cost. We built a society based on diplomacy and trade and mutual respect, because we remembered what happened when we did not. She turned to look at the assembled delegates. You mistook that choice for weakness. You thought we were harmless because we were peaceful. You thought we would run because we preferred not to fight. The people of New Hope proved you wrong, a Zafrani delegate interrupted with a harsh whistle. But they died. All of them. How is this a victory for humanity? Chen's expression did not change. It was not a victory. It was a tragedy. 3,000 people died because the galaxy's laws favored the strong over the weak. They died because no one would help them. They died because the Vryn Dominion decided that might makes right. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was harder. But they did not die quietly. They did not die without making a difference. They sent a message that every human in the galaxy heard loud and clear. They said, we will defend ourselves. We will fight for our homes. We will not surrender just because someone stronger tells us to. Chen activated another display. This one showed communications logs. Thousands of them. Messages between human colonies. Defensive agreements. Resource-sharing pacts. Military coordination protocols. Ambassador Kelthera is right to be concerned, Chen said, because what happened at New Hope was not an accident. It was not spontaneous. Those people had 72 hours of advance warning, not 24. They set a trap. They wanted to send a message. And the message was heard. The council chamber exploded with noise. Delegates shouting questions. Kelthera's armored face showed shock. Even the keeper's crystalline form flickered with surprise. Chen waited for the noise to die down before continuing. Earth knew the Vryn were coming. We warned New Hope. We offered to evacuate them. They refused. Administrator Webb and 2,999 other people volunteered to stay. They volunteered to fight. They volunteered to die. Because they wanted to show the galaxy what humans would do when threatened. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species, and it worked. Every human colony saw what happened. Every human settlement learned the lesson. We are not helpless. We are not victims. We are survivors, and if you threaten us, if you give us no choice, we will fight. We will make you pay for every life you take. A small delegate from a species Chen did not recognize spoke up. So you are threatening us? You are saying you will attack if we do not do what you want? Chen shook her head. No, we are not threatening anyone. We are simply stating a fact. We prefer peace. We choose diplomacy. We want to be your friends and trading partners and allies. But we will not be your victims. We will not be pushed aside because we are young or weak or soft. She turned back to her display and brought up more information. Military analyses. Strategic assessments. Contingency plans. The council delegates leaned forward, trying to see the details. For the past 50 years, Chen said calmly, humanity has been documenting every council species' military doctrine. We have studied your tactics. We have analyzed your weapons. We have developed contingency plans for conflict with every major power in the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. This was more than just a threat. This was preparation. This was the revelation that humans had been planning for war even while they smiled and traded and pretended to be harmless. Chen continued, her voice never rising, never showing anger. Just stating facts. We know how Vryn shield generators cycle. We know the weak points in cultic armor plating. We know the frequency ranges that disrupt Zafrani neural networks. We know the optimal temperature to destabilize Lysera biogel. We have studied all of you, and we have plans. She let that sink in for a moment. But here is what you need to understand. We do not want to use those plans. We do not want to fight. The people of New Hope died so that the rest of us would not have to. They died so that the galaxy would understand. Humans are not easy prey. Leave us alone, treat us fairly, and we will be the best neighbors you could ask for. But threaten us and we will become your worst nightmare. The keeper spoke, its voice like crystal chimes. Commander Chen, are you saying that humanity is prepared to go to war with the entire Galactic Council? Chen met the keeper's gaze steadily. No, honored keeper. I am saying that humanity is prepared to defend itself against anyone who attacks us. We do not seek conflict. We seek respect. We seek fairness. We seek a place in this galaxy where we are treated as equals, not as lesser beings to be pushed aside whenever convenient. She turned to address the entire council. Ambassador Kelthera proposed banning humanity from the council. I say that would be a mistake. Not because we would respond with violence, but because you would be rejecting an opportunity. Humanity brings things to this galaxy that you need. We bring innovation and adaptability. We bring determination and resilience. We bring the memory of what it costs to fight and the wisdom to choose peace instead. Chen's voice softened slightly. We are not asking you to ban us. We are asking you to remember that we choose to be your friends. We choose to trade with you, to learn from you, to build a future together. But it is a choice. Do not make us choose differently. She stepped back from the platform. Her speech was over. Now it was up to the council to decide. The keeper announced an emergency recess. The delegates would deliberate in private before voting. Chen returned to her seat and waited. She had done what she came to do. She had told the truth. Now the galaxy would decide what to do with that truth. The recess lasted for 3 hours. During that time, frantic communications flew between the delegates and their home governments. Analysts reviewed the footage. Military advisors assessed the implications. Politicians calculated the costs of various options. The conclusion was unanimous, though reached reluctantly by many. Humanity was everywhere in the galaxy, on stations, on planets, in trade routes, and businesses. If they all decided to fight the way New Hope had fought, the cost would be staggering. Not in terms of military defeat, the Council powers could still win, but in terms of lives lost, resources spent, and time wasted. More importantly, humans had proven they could be useful. Their adaptability made them excellent traders. Their creativity made them valuable researchers. Their determination made them reliable partners. Why turn all of that into hostility when it could be channeled into cooperation? When the Council reconvened, the Keeper spoke the decision. The motion to ban humanity from the Galactic Council is denied. Furthermore, the Council recognizes the need for reform in our treatment of emerging species. A new motion has been proposed and approved. The Keeper's form glowed brighter. Humanity is hereby granted formal recognition as a protected power. Earth and all human colonies are granted full Council voting rights. Human settlements are granted the same protections as Council species' homeworlds. Any attack on human territory will be considered an attack on the Council itself. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some delegates applauded, others protested. But the decision was final. Humanity had achieved in one day what most species took centuries to earn: full membership in the Galactic Council, equal status with the ancient powers, protection for all their people. Chen stood to acknowledge the decision, but her face showed no joy, no triumph, just sadness. Because she knew the cost. 3,000 lives, 3,000 people who had volunteered to die so that billions of other humans would be safe. As the council session ended and delegates began to leave, a young human diplomat approached Chen. He was excited, practically bouncing with enthusiasm.